Family. They make you laugh. They make you cry. They're there for you when you're down. You fight. You forgive. You dance. You vent. You drink. You eat. You even smoke. It's one big family reunion. Family comes with all types of personalities. The funny ones, the nosy ones, the bougie ones, the one that always has an attitude, the quiet one, the one that always wants to hold something, the competitive one. Can't forget the religious one. Just one big emotional and dysfunctional family. Doing the same thing every year. Some come and some go. Some you're close with, some you're not. With much laughter, there's the same amount in drama. No matter where you come from, we've all had to deal with family. Of course, some worse than others. Regardless of what family you come from, we all have one thing in common. They're all in the matrix. And then there's you, observing this emotional roller coaster we call family. You don't hate them. In fact, you love them. You even try to have those deep conversations that's outside of the family's norm. Very few are open to having such conversations. But most think you're over the top or thinking too deep. Some will even become angry. You and your family has been there each other during the highs and the lows. Some say they will give the clothes off your back, even to the point of giving their life for you. The interesting part about it all is that same love seems contingent based on your participation with the family's traditional and current consciousness. So in reality, one would have to ask themselves, are we really family?
Because in the pure time before the Matrix, you could only exist as a family member. Family only pertained to microcosms of unified immortality, a completely different concept of what we have today. I'm going to go over the first part. Let me jump back in the room a second. I'm going to go over the first part, and then I'm going to get you guys to jump back into the chat. But I just wanted to break that first part there, that people get very, very emotional when it comes to this topic. And imagine for years you've been getting emotional over a topic that nobody even knew the definition or meaning of. You don't even know why you called somebody that. You don't know what makes up a family. You don't know what it means. You have no knowledge of what this word means, and people get super crazily. Don't treat me like that. Come on, man. I'm family. I'm family. You know, but I'm and you have no. I asked them, what does that word even mean? What relevance is it to you? And it means absolutely nothing until you create the meaning. Again, if you're on an abandoned island and I separated you from Auntie Uncle Pookie and them, and I separated you from Aunt Jemima, and I separated you from Bill, Tom, and your brother and your cousin, and I put you all on an island 20 years later, there'll be nothing instinctive inside of you to treat them better, love them better, like them better. You wouldn't say you wouldn't want to marry them. You wouldn't say there'd be nothing instinctual. But as soon as you looked down and saw the plants and saw the herbs, there'd be something instinctual inside of you saying, I must eat that or I'm going to die. Nobody is teaching the first man how to eat. There is no papyrus teaching you how to eat. There is no papyrus teaching you, take water from a lake and go like this. You know that. Every animal knows this. The subconscious mind teaches you what is natural. Everything else is a taught construct that you created, and now you live by those emotional creations. And unfortunately, the emotional creations have been added onto with the matrix. So now we're completely confused with already an arbitrary abstract term added on to matrices that were created with a definition of a word that was created at the exact same time that they were doing slavery. That means that the definition of family in the dictionary was invented while they were raping your mother. Then they invented the word family, and you go by that. As opposed to, you're about to see for the first time in everybody's life the terms for family members and family pre-matrix. And you're going to see, and this is why some people think that I am cold and how could you cut off your son? How could you cut off your mom? How could you cut off your aunt? How could you cut off? And you're going to see, I'm not a part of this. I'm not a part of this. I'm not from this, whatever this is to everybody, this is not what I'm a part of. And when you start to see the definition that the family in ancient times could only be those that echo the microcosm of immortality. And if you didn't echo the microcosm of immortality, you were not a family member. It didn't matter if you were a son, daughter, father, mother, uncle, cousin, third cousin, Pookie and him, and all of that. It did not matter. And that's what kept the construct of Kemet. And that's why they got confused when they were trying to defy the dynasties, because they thought the pharaohs were keeping dynasties based on bloodline. And then when Eusebius started realizing that there was a mistake, that it wasn't bloodline, that they were inviting people from Mesopotamia in, people from Syria were coming in, and they were becoming royal family. They're not part of the bloodline. And that family was a mental construct of a vibrational frequency that everybody had to have in order to run a 4,200 kilometer country with one pharaoh. Imagine one man over 4,200 miles. We think Biden could do that? Biden can't even run America. Kemet was 3 Americas because everybody was so in tune with the same frequency, you didn't have to have police. There was no lawyers in Kemet. There was no police. There was no private investigator. There was nobody running around checking on people. You didn't pay your taxes. None of that. So we're going to get into that family, and we're going to find out after this class what is the definition of the true family. And yes, it could be your brother. It could be your son. It could be your uncle. It could be all of this, and also it doesn't have to be that.
It's unbalancing when your family aren't on the same page. No culture means no structure. And no structure, well, that's the recipe for chaos. Without a culture, there's just rules that were created mainly based on trauma that usually contradicts the next rule. Without observation, this chaos becomes normalized, which begets the next generation to be the same or even worse. Ma'at stands out completely when compared to such behavior. Most people will always defend what they do, especially if it's so-called tradition. The moment you decide to no longer participate, you usually end up dealing with two types of people. There's the one who's genuinely curious and is open to truth, or the one who is ready to defend the so-called culture. Dysfunctionality has been normalized. It has become the cornerstone of the word family. We've all heard the quote, all families are dysfunctional. But wait, dysfunctional is anti-biological imperative. That doesn't sound like love to me. The ancient Cometians instructed to be functional, to be of use, power of acting in a specific, proper way. The maximums of Ptah-hotep. If you are a well-to-do man and begat a son who pleases Neter, if he is upright and follows your disposition, if he listens to your teachings, if his conduct is worthy within your household, and if he manages your property well, then do very good things for him. For he is your son, begotten of your very being. Do not withhold your love from him. One's offspring may cause grief. If he goes wrong and disregards your counsel, if he does not do as you instructed him, but disobeys everything said to him, if his mouth prattles on with vile talk, then reject him, for he is not your son, and for certain he was not born to you. Punish him for all his talk, for he who has extended his arm against you is hateful to the Natiru. Surely evil was fated for him from the womb. For he whom the Natiru guide is one who cannot err, and he whom they leave stranded is unable to cross the river. If you desire that your way of life be blameless, keep yourself far from evil. Guard yourself against the blemish of greediness, for it is a grave affliction of an incurable disease, and those who fall into it cannot recover. It creates decisions among fathers, mothers, and maternal brothers. It embitters beloved friends. It alienates a trustworthy man from his neb. It isolates a wife from her husband. It is an embracing of every evil. It is a combining of everything which is hateful. That man will endure who is meticulous in uprightness and who walks in accordance with his proper station. He will make a testament thereby, but for the greedy there will be no tomb. Do not be selfish in the division of an estate by lusting for more than your rightful share. Do not be selfish with respect to your relatives, for greater is the claim of the good-natured man than that of the assertive. If you are a well-to-do man and established your household, be gracious to your wife in accordance with what is fair. Feed her well, put clothes on her back, ointment and the balm for her body. Rejoice her heart all the days of your life, for she is a profitable field for her neb. Do not condemn her, but keep her far away from power. Control her, for her eye is quick and sharp. Watch her carefully, for thus you will cause her to remain long in your house. If you are too strict with her, there will be tears. She offers sexual favors in return for her upkeep, and what she asks is that her desire be fulfilled. It is good to speak to your posterity, and it is the duty of your posterity to give heed to it. If a noble action is done by one who is in authority, he will be of good reputation forever, and all his wisdom will be for everlasting. The learned man takes care of his by assuring that it will be content with him on earth. The learned man can be recognized by what he has learned, and the noble man by his good actions. His heart controls his tongue, and precise are his lips when he speaks. His eyes see, and his ears are pleased through hearing of the reputation of his son, who acts in accordance with Ma'at, and who is free from falsehood. How good is it that a son should accept what his father says? For ripe old age will come upon him thereby. He who listens is favored of the Natiru, but he who is hated of the Netter does not listen. If a nobleman takes to heart what is said by his father, never will fail any endeavor of his. Educate your son as a listener, one who will be esteemed in the hearts of the nobles, one who guides his speech in accordance with what is said to him, one who acknowledges him who is to be obeyed. It is such a son who is superior and whose actions are distinguished, but error is to ingrain into him who does not listen. The education of a wise man leads to his success, but as for the fool, he will labor in vain. A man who listens is a true follower of Heru, for his fortune is good because he has listened. He will attain ripe old age and will be honored, and he will speak likewise to his own children, handing on the instructions of his father, for every man teaches according as he acts. He will converse in the presence of his children, build their character, do not install in them anything offensive, strengthen Ma'at, and your children will live.
the object that the Kepara beetle pushes in a circle around and around, which represents everlasting life. And the dung actually is what keeps the earth green because it keeps the plants alive, while at the same time they breastfeed their children through their udders. So they're considered sustainers. The great Kau. Okay, so who is the most powerful person in Kemet? Yes, the pharaoh. What if I told you we knew that what made the pharaoh great was the female energy, the Ka, Aset, and Nebtet, his two quote-unquote wives. You're going to notice I have the word wives in quotations, his quote-unquote wives, which are backing him. Let me show you the real word for pharaoh. So the real word for pharaoh is this word right here, which I've broken down before. Par-i-i. We can see right there. Okay, in the Egyptian Hieroglyphic Dictionary, page 238, there's the word for pharaoh, which is par-i-i. It means a great temple or a great house. And you know a great house and great temple is because I did the whole classes on the architecture and the structure of the temple, actually matching the 18 units of man. So the house, the temple, the pyramid are all units of man in a microcosm. So we've already broken that down. So the pharaoh is called the great house. The per-i-i, the part that means house is per. I-i means great. Okay, so here's the i-i, and what does it mean? Great, to be large. Okay, so it's per house, and the word ii or aa meaning great. You see right there, mighty. So the two hands, which are the ka, is what makes the pharaoh mighty. But what is the word ii from that is making Asar and all the pharaohs mighty that the pharaohs are emulating? What is that word ii? It's ii, it's the forearm, right? The two forearms are the hands. Boom, the arms are not just one arm, but it's two arms, which are the two ladies with their arms supporting Asar, representing the Ka, within that sustains and keeps you alive. So right off the bat, the so-called wives are what makes the man the in the ancient family, because she supports his actual sustenance. She supports his actual life in immortality, because the man is living his life imitating Asar, which was the first to die and resurrect, and the women were the first to resurrect him. So their hands, which are the Ka, which represent the bioenergetic template, is the same terminology for your woman as they stand behind you, supporting you and resurrecting you for out-of-body experiences and eventually the afterlife. And if you take the women away, the so-called wives away, you no longer have a pharaoh, because in order to have a pharaoh, you have to have the ii, which is the Ka, which is the bioenergetic template that keeps you alive. So the so-called wife in the family was equated to the actual bioenergetic template, a complete different concept than today, because your wife is not considered your soul today. Where in ancient times, in order to be a wife or a mate of someone, you had to actually be living the life of the microcosm of what the soul does to keep the physical body alive. So let's just start right there, the differences with all these microcosms of immortality. Guess what one of the words was for family? Guess what one of the words were for family, everybody? You know what one of the words were for family 3,000 years before the Matrix? Let's find out. What is the word for actual family 3,000 years before the Matrix? Page 105 of the Egyptian Hieroglyphic Dictionary. The two arms, family, by the two hands, and it shows a woman there with the Fibonacci sequence. Can everybody see it? I have three arrows pointing directly to it. That the actual word for what you're calling a wife today, the word wife, the the two hands that support, that represent the Ka, that keep the body alive. The same word for wife was the word for family. The two hands of Aset and Neptet was the word for family. So the actual word for family is actually a female netter. If you look closely, you will see this is the female netter. The female, let me come to the screen real quick. The female in the so-called family is the word for the entire family itself. What a completely different concept than everything I've been told tonight. What a completely different concept than what everybody's been telling me family is. Well, 3,000 years before the Matrix, the actual female was the microcosm of the entire family, because the way you said the female was the two arms, the same thing you said for bioenergetic template that actually gave birth to your Ba was the female, the two women behind you, and that's what made her your wife or your family, because she actually was the sustainer for the entire family and the life giver, living the microcosm of immortality, because that's what the story of Asar was all about. So if you didn't believe it, you couldn't be an atheist wife. You couldn't be an atheist wife 3,000 years before the Matrix. You had to automatically understand the Ka, the bioenergetic template, the pure energetic projectable double, Asar, and immortality, what the two hands meant, why the hands were connected to the Eve, the chest. On the left side was the Eve, so the actual Ka symbol is two hands with the chest, and that's what your responsibility was, and you were called as the so-called wife, that you were actually the uplifter of the entire family through the spirit, as the cow, the sustainer, the original breastfeeder. What a different concept. What a different concept. And that's why the word Ka has the chest in it, because the chest contains the Eve. So you're about to see something that the actual word has Eve in it as well, which is the heart. Welcome to the... You see that? That is family right there. The two arms, the two hands, page 105, the same word for the woman. So the actual word family in ancient times was a feminine word. The actual image of the woman was the word for family. How good does that make you feel as a female? How good does that make you feel as a wife, that the actual word for the entire family is actually you? With the Fibonacci sequence right there, with the swirl or the loop or the rope, which I've broken down many times before, boom, as soon as we begin, can you see the complete difference in consciousness between the so-called family concept that has been in your brain than what was there pre-Matrix? So what was the word for family member? Today, we call wife. What was the other word for wife? It was makit. Makit. Hey, everybody. What does that say right there? Does that say support of the heart? Did you not learn here the Tutti Pa class, the Menender class, first time in your life, that the Ka symbol was actually the two hands with the actual chest, because the chest actually on the left side, which is why you put your foot to the left, and why left is Eve and the word heart is Eve, and both left and heart are the same word because they're actually to the left. So in order for you to pass the Ma'at scale, you have to have a purified heart. Well, who's helping purifying your heart in the family? The wife, which is the Ka, holding up the back and supporting you as the resurrected Asar. So that's the same word for wife, means support of the Eve, because if your Eve is not supported, then it's not going to get past the scales of Ma'at to immortality. So that she's the protector of the household, because she's the protector of your heart, moving you towards immortality. And that is why the word for housewife, protector of the household, there is the same symbol again. See that symbol again? We're right back here. Here's family. See the same symbol again? The two hands are set in Nebtet, the two hands, the Ka, the bioenergetic template. Well, it's the same word for the support of the heart, because that's exactly what Asar and Aset were doing with their man, supporting his heart and resurrecting, symbolically giving him back a heartbeat, giving him back his rhythm. But we see the word Maka'it also means covering. And then we see a bird with the wings out. Why would Maka'it, which is the word for wife, mean a covering?
A mate who is in Ma'at is a nefer thing. Both mates do what is biologically imperative for their immortality. Their mindset, unwavering. When one is feeling weak or needs correction, Ma'at is present within the other to keep the union in order. They're so imbued in Ma'at that arguments are a rare occasion. Literally moving as one. In order to create the family you want to see, it starts with the consciousness of you and your mate. Literally becoming the first generation in your family to come back to Ma'at. That's what I call family wealth. The love songs of Papyrus Chester Betty, the beginning of the poems of great delight. First stanza. My beloved is unrivaled. There is none to equal her. She is beautiful beyond all women. Behold, she is like the star which appears at the onset of a prosperous year. Exquisite is her splendor, gleaming in her complexion. Brilliant are her gaze and eyes. Sweet are her lips when they speak, for she is not given to excessive speech. High is her neck, resplendent are her breast. Of pure lapis lazuli is her hair. Her arms surpass even gold, like lotus flowers are her fingers. Her buttocks are soft, her waist is slender, and her thighs extend her beauty. So charming are her movements as she strolls on the earth, that she sees my heart in her embrace. She causes the necks of all men to turn to watch her, and everyone rejoices who embraces her, for he is first among all lovers. When she goes outside, she is revealed as that goddess without rival. End of poem. She's a sweet thing.
Here's how his son depicts his mut and his atef, his mother and his father. Do you see mental unification? Do you see one that's a Muslim and one that's a Hebrew? Do you see one that's a Seventh-day Adventist and my wife, well, she's a Jehovah's Witness. My wife's an Eastern Star, but I'm going to study a little bit of Presbyterian. I'm out in the clubs, but my wife is a Catholic. Is this what you see here? This is relationships, because they are mentally relatable, because the family is only created in your mindset. And at any time, your mindset can change, and thus you're no longer a part of the mental unified frequency. But look how they look completely unified, arms crisscrossing at the exact same place. Look at this. This, do you see this in your household today? Is this how you are? Is this how you depict yourself for your children? Is this the unification? Mental do they look like they're arguing about religion? Do they look like they have any kind of discrepancy? I like apples. You apple. I'm not an apple person. Does that look like this? Absolutely not, because it is mental unification. Look at the complete mental unison and mirror effects. The arms crisscrossing directly in the creating a mental symmetry. The two arms exactly positioned on the thigh in the exact same place. The garments with the writing directly centered in the same place, positioned exactly, mirroring, aka mirroring each other. This is an example of relatability. In other words, unified mind, a marrying effect, stimulating mirror neurons. That was the definition of family before the matrix. Satisfying the mirror neurons. Okay, hey, that looks the same. I am familiar, familiar. It's something that looks like I've seen it before, it means to go back, relate, relative, to go back, because I'm reflecting on what happened before. I'm seeing it again. So it seems relatable because I already had the thought before. So thus it's familiar, thus it's family, the true definition. The pre-matrix family built on structure of Ma'at was such a close unified mental unit that not even death separated them. Look what this son
It's one thing for you and your mate to be one in Ma'at, but it's even better thing when your children can echo that same symmetry, giving you, their parents, adoration while alive and in the afterlife, setting up altars, giving libations, giving praise. Ma'at being passed down from generation to generation, doing what sustains life, doing what sustains the family, echoing Ma'at to the world, to those who are observing. That's what I call generational wealth. That's Ma'at. The instructions of Ankh Shesh Ankh. Serve your brothers and your sisters, that you may enjoy a good reputation. Serve your mother and your father, that you may go forward and prosper. The good fortune of a storehouse is the stocking of it. May the elder brother of the town be the one to whom it is entrusted. May the kindest brother of the family be the one who acts as elder brother for it. May I have something and my relatives have something, so that I may eat my own without holding back. May children do honor to their father and their mother. May I recognize my brother and my sister, that I may open my heart to them. The children of a fool wander in the street, but those of the wise are always with them. May the heart of a wife be the heart of her husband, so that they may be free of contention. If a woman is at peace with her man, they will never fare badly. If a woman whispers about her man, they will never fare well. A good woman of noble character is food that comes in times of hunger. A woman lets herself be loved according to the character of her man. Honor the elderly in your heart, and you will be honored in the hearts of all. Do not laugh at your son in front of his mother, lest you learn the measure of his father. Do not prefer one of your children to the other, for you know not which one of them will be kind to you. Do not do evil to a person and thus cause another to do it to you. Serve your brothers, that you may have good repute. Force your son, do not let your servant force him. Do not spare your son work when you can make him do it. Do not say, here is my brother's acre. Look to your own. The wealth of property is a wise woman.
So, again, we see the complete mental unification and everyone in the family under one accord and mirroring each other, as we see in tune of the high, in the tomb of the high official in her car with his family. And now we look, and now here are the children involved. Tomb of the high official in Kurha. Does that look like a family that's arguing? Does that look like a family that has mental disputes? Does that look like a family that have different moral values? Does that look like a family that doesn't agree with what right and wrong is? Does that look like a family that believe in different type of gods? Does that look like a family that's doing different kind of spiritual system? Or does that look like a mental mirror? Look at how the man and his mate are sitting, echoing each other. Look at the children. Look at the people in front of him. Look how they're mirroring each other in position. They're in the same positions, arms up. Both of the people sitting down have their arms in the same position. Look at the two children. Let me move my mouse. You see the arm right here, bent, right here below the chest, arm down. Let's look at the child behind the mother. Do you see the arm bent right here below the chest, arm down? Do you see that these two people echo each other? They have no clothes on, but these two people have the exact same type of garment on, which is just a garment above the waist and down. Yet these two people are fully garments with the exact same design on the arm, fully clothed, half clothed, naked. Fully clothed, half clothed, naked. Mirroring each other's position, mirroring each other's position, mirroring each other's position. Is that what a family is today? That's why I have no tolerance for anything else. I have absolutely no tolerance for anything else. Nothing else will do, and everything else, I'm out of there. No tolerance for nothing else. I have too many people to teach, too many things to do, to worry about somebody giving their opinion of a family based on some TV show, Danny Tanner's and Family Matters, or some R. Kelly video they saw. No, it's either this duplication of mentality, echoing, or nothing. Okay, so look at Nebamun following in the marshes in the tomb chapel of Nebamun. This is circa 1350 BC, 3,350 years ago. The family is all of one accord, one system, one mentality. Different families involved with different. Are there different families involved with different religious chaotic thoughts? They're all mentally unified. Here we go again. Here we go again. Do they look like they have different viewpoints? Do they look like they're arguing? Do they look like they're about to get a divorce? Do they look like they have different moral codes? Or do they look completely unified under the same spiritual system, which is the only thing that can hold a true family or an awat together, is a spiritual system. And that's why they got the concept that family was servant and slave of the household, because you were originally a servant and slave of the household, and everybody there was of the same accord. Yes, the servants look like this, and the priests look like this, and the pharaoh look like this, and the priestess look like this, and your farmer look like this, and your gardener look like this, and your maid look like this. So thus all of you were of the same family. That's where they got that concept from. And that's why when I asked in the beginning, does your maid, butler, are they all family like your mother? And everybody said no. Why? Because they're of different mental accord. But when you're like this, when everybody's of the same mental accord, then yes, the servant and the person working for you is of the same family, because they're all one family moving towards immortality. None of them are arguing with each other about spirituality. Here's Nebamun again. Look at this beautiful image. You see Nebamun and the women right here with their hands up again. Do they look like they're arguing? Do they look like they're having a... I like Steve Harvey. I like Eddie Murphy. You don't like Eddie Murphy? I like Diana Ross. I like Anita Baker. You know I'm an Anita Baker person. I like burgers. I like fries. No, absolutely not. You think Nebamun had time for that? Absolutely. No time for no foolishness is going on right here. Everybody's mentally unified, and the second any of these women act like Shaquanda, they'd be tossed out. They're gone. The second he started acting like Tyrone Biggums, he's gone. He'd be thrown to the alligators, which would never happen because there was no Coons or Uncle Toms or confused people in along the Nile Valley in this culture. And actually, if you look close, see the images of family are drawn in the form of symmetry. Like I showed before. Look again. Look how this person's sitting on the chair, and this person here and over here. This is all alignment. The chairs look the same. They didn't even have different chairs. The chairs were in tune. Why? Because the chairs have actual animal feet. Do you see that? Animal feet right there. 1 second, hold on. Okay. Animal feet. You see that? Because the chairs had symbolic meaning. They're not just sitting on regular chairs. They're not sitting on IKEA. I got mine from IKEA. I got mine from Nordstrom's. They're not. I got mine from Sears. Now, yeah, you ain't like that. No, the chairs have spiritual meanings. They're called buyer chairs. Buyer, just a whole nother class. See, this is Neb, Nakut, and the family. The son is Amenhotep, a priest of Harsephus, is clothed in the leopard skin, accompanied with his mother, Serentre, while he pours libation over his father and paternal grandmother, Ayuti. You see all the families doing the same thing? He's pouring a libation for his father and the grandmother. They're all a part of the same culture, mentally in tune with each other. Thus, they're not arguing and scrapping each other at the barbecue.
Following the culture of our ancestors leaves no room for dysfunction. Everyone in the family literally moves as one. The most beautiful thing about our ancestors is that they left records of an actual culture. There was no ISFED involved. No kids staying in their rooms all day on their cell phones. No sleeping on separate couches because you had a fight with your mate. There was no independence. The family was one. Complete unity. Every chore, every labor, every meal, every decision was for the benefit of the family.
Let's break the matrix. Your brain is in search for its natural desire for symmetry, which is duality. In cooperation, co-op, which means duality. With mirror neurons, fill in the borderline separating the images and makes the apparent top image look brighter, even though the white spaces throughout the image are in fact identical shade of white. Did you get that? There is an identical shade of white, but your mind is actually creating that the image below is a darker shade of white, which pushes up the illusion that the lighter shade of white is actually on top, blocking out the other images, which create the illusion of a symmetry triangle on top of a symmetry triangle, when in actuality, there is not even one triangle in the image and there's no separation of the images, but your mind actually created the shade because it's naturally looking for symmetry. Do you see? It was naturally looking for symmetry. So your mind created the symmetry, the duality, the equivalence, the familiarity, the family. It created it in the mind. That's why I said family is created for a relationship, to relate. Like the theory of relativity, your relative. Theory of relativity existed prior to humans having a family. Relating atoms and things mirroring each other existed before there was any kind of family. After evolution in millions of years, the mind decided it is not like accidents. So therefore, when you wear jewelry, do you see? All of this has to match. And that's why you say it looks pretty. Because if there's one here, it'd be weird if one was right here and then one was on my nose. But this is symmetry. That means it is the same distance from here to here. Your mind likes that because it's structure. Your mind naturally likes order. Your mind naturally likes things that is familiar because anything unfamiliar is unstable. You're not standing on anything. Thus, you're afraid. The peripheral of your skin has to touch the surface, or else you feel like you're going to fall. Thus, you touch the surface and now you're stable. You don't feel the same when you're bungee jumping. You don't feel the same when you fall down a mountain. You don't feel the same when you jump out of a plane. You're not touching anything. You feel unstable. The mind doesn't like that. It likes to create stability, but things can only be stable when it's evenly balanced. You know, if you have a ladder that's not evenly balanced, you fall. If you have a stool where one leg doesn't look identical to the other leg, you fall. If one of your legs is a little bit shorter than the other one, you fall. So therefore, symmetry keeps balance, and that's what becomes attractive to you. You like that the nose is in the middle of the face. It'd be very strange if you went to a club to ask for a girl's number. She has the bomb body, awesome, perfect breasts, perfect waist, and she turns around and her nose is on her cheek. You'd be like, I was talking to the other girl. What's wrong, brother? Her nose on her cheek. What's wrong with that? It's not symmetry. You want the nose in the middle of the face. You want two eyes here. You want the same amount of mouth that's over. You don't want a mouth like this. You don't want a flounder fish. You want symmetry. Huh? You want a woman who has an arm over here and an arm over here. You want a man with the leg here and the leg here. If he has a shoulder here, you don't want that other shoulder to be there. You don't want the woman with three breasts, like the movie with the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, the Mars movie. You don't want the woman with three breasts. You want symmetry. So therefore, your mind will create symmetry even when it's not there. Just like your mind created a family even when it's not there. It wants the symmetry dualism. It wants the structure. So your mind says, that stranger in the park that I met, that's a stranger. I made love to him or her. You're family now. Just like my mother, who was family when I was born. Stranger at the park, sex, family. Mother, no sex. I can't have a relationship to you because you're my relative, but you're my family too, because it makes sense. So let's look.
May you only surround yourself with those who are in Ma'at. May you create or transform your family into Ma'at. May you and your family be one. May you be unapologetic for not compromising what is beneficial for your immortality. May you and your family in Ma'at be inseparable here in this realm and in the afterlife. May Ra grant you and your family health and prosperity. May your monument be established on the foundations of Ma'at, and may you all rise and come forth as conscious light, like the divine Ra, who rises and shines forevermore in Ma'at. Hotep Meri.